Hey YouTube, in this video we're going to be taking a look at Starfield again. This time we're going to be using a much older computer. So this is a Threadripper 2950X, so it's still a 16-core 32-thread system, but it was new in 2018. So it's a 5-year-old machine with a almost 5-year-old GPU. So the Radeon VII, it launched in early 2019, so it's just about as old as a 20 series GPU. But it has 16 gigabytes of VRAM, so we're not going to limit ourselves by any sort of VRAM limitation. Having said that, we're running the game at 1080p Ultra, as you can see here, so I think that is a good target resolution for an older machine like this. And you can see in New Atlantis, we are running at just under 40 frames per second at Ultra. One thing I noticed is that if we drop the settings, let's just drop this down to high. If we drop it down to high, we don't really gain a whole lot, as you can see here. Now we're in the 40s consistently compared to Ultra. So we did gain a little bit of frames there. If we drop it down to medium, we gained a lot of frames there. We gained about like 12 frames or so. So medium seems like it's not 60. We're gonna leave New Atlantis. We're gonna go to a more sparsely populated planet. But you guys can see that the game is pretty demanding for older hardware. So a Threadripper 2950X, the gaming performance is similar to a Ryzen 7 2700X. It's somewhere around there, which if we're looking at an Intel CPU, it's kind of like an 8700K or a 9900K. That's kind of the Intel similar CPUs. The 9900K is going to be a little bit better than this, but this is kind of like an 8700K or 7700K for those curious. So this is kind of how the CPU runs the game in a CPU-bound city. So let's go on out to one of the less populated planets, and surprisingly in the ship the game is much harder to run in the ship, which I found that really strange. So let's take off and go somewhere, see if we can get better performance at a higher preset. So we're still only able to do like 50 frames per second. Let's try to up the graphics here. Let's go up to high. I like that the game is able to dynamically scale up relatively quickly. Doesn't require any sort of restarting the game or anything like that. But now we're back down to 40 frames per second. And if we go down to Ultra, Ultra definitely looks better. But as you can see, it's only doing about 40 frames per second. The strange thing too is the GPU utilization is very weird. It's like 99%, so that indicates that it is fully loading the GPU. But the thing with the Radeon VII was a 250 to 300 watt GPU, and I don't see the power consumption really going up that high on this GPU, which means that, and see how it drops to like 95. So to me, if I look up at the sky, see, it's not really, I feel like there's a lot of weird stuff with this game when it comes to running it on much older hardware, like the Radeon VII. The Radeon VII is unique because it is the last GCN GPU, right before RDNA 1, because the 5700 XT came out after the Radeon VII. So this is kind of a look back at how the game runs on AMD's older architecture. But it doesn't really run that great. I mean, I was expecting 1080p to be, closer to 60 at Ultra, but instead we have to drop down to medium to get above 60. Oh, now it's going above 60. But see, it's not all the time. So when we're out here on Titan with nothing around, we're able to see the frame rate go But it looks like there's some kind of toxic gas here. Let's see if we go in here. Toxic gas. Okay. That's cool. Protection regen. Anyway. That's too much methane to inhale. Because this has methane on Titan, for those that were curious. But it's able to go... See, like, in a place there's no one around, the frame rate looks good, but the problem is we're running it at medium preset. So, it seems like the recommended and minimum system requirements are pretty accurate. The game is very... It is a very CPU-heavy game, but all of Bethesda's games have always historically been like that, so I don't really expect Starfield to be any different in that regard. So, I guess this is kind of it. So, you know, we're able to do around 60 at medium when you're exploring, but when you go into the... Well, I guess let's just leave it at medium, because medium seems like that's kind of the target. Let's go back over to where the other player characters... Or let's go back to where the NPCs are. Oh, it looks like they probably have something for me to do because I can see those windmills are frozen again. So there's an NPC. Yeah, see, they need help clearing ice off the equipment again. But anyway, this is kind of a look at how the game runs at 1080p on a Radeon 7 and a Threadripper 2950X, which is basically a Zen Plus architecture. This is basically Zen Plus with the best GCN GPU possible. So I will note that resizable bar is enabled, so we are running with resizable bar. But as you can see, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. So that's kind of how the game runs at medium. Just to show people again, at Ultra, this is the performance when you're not in a city. So it actually seems like the NPCs don't make much of a difference because the New Atlantis performance was very similar to this. You know, like 30, in the 30s essentially at Ultra. So this is kind of like an Xbox Series X in terms of how it performs. So that was a look at Starfield on Threadripper 2950X, and now you guys see why I upgraded to Zen 4, because Zen Plus as a workstation wouldn't cut it for gaming and single-threaded sort of applications. So I hope you guys found this video useful, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.